Hey everyone, Adrian here over at the Sampleist, and today we're going to take a look at a new library for Kontakt from a new developer. This one is called Terrastrate and is the inaugural release from Audivor. Terrastrate is a cinematic hybrid instrument that has been crafted to inspire and enhance the workflow of composers and sound designers. The instrument is firmly in the cinematic software instrument realm, with its versatile sound engine and interesting interface. It combines the functions of a sampler, granular synthesizer, and also a pulse engine. And coupled together, they offer limitless possibilities for both sound design and music production. You get 500 sound sources, 375 presets, a 4-page modern looking user interface, a dynamic modulation matrix with extensive FX controls. The list just goes on. And the library has been optimised for NKS and accessibility. You will need Kontakt or the free Kontakt player, version 6.7.1 or higher, and at least 4.8 gig of disk space. Terrastrate is available now from Audivor and is on introductory pricing of $99 until the 20th of June 2024. The regular price will be $149. So settle back and let's have a listen to some of the 375 sounds from this library. Now that I've heard some of the sounds from this library, let's just take a walk through the interface. It's bright and bold and very easy to navigate. You've got your sound sources at the top here, which you can just click on the name and it comes up with your sources, and you have a whole gazillion list of them. You can also click through them by just using left and right arrows. You can also disable a layer by just clicking on the name. So layer A, if it goes grey, it means it's not activated. Another hint is your sample down here waveform disappears. If you see, it's just becomes unhighlighted. You can alter the volume of each layer. Your attack portion, so we've got a piano and I've done this on purpose, so if you want to make that into more of a pad, just turn the attack up. You can also adjust the volume by the mod wheel after touch, and as you saw there when I move my mod wheel, you'll know your mod wheel's working because this suddenly explodes in the middle as a performance icon here that tells you what's actually going on. We then have these little waveforms here which tell you when you play, you can actually see that light tells you whereabouts on the waveform you are. So it goes on and on and on and on and on. So you can see whereabouts on the waveform you actually are there. This bottom section appears on all 4 pages. Well, most of it appears on all 4 pages. When we go into the next page, you'll see 2 other controls suddenly appear here, which is for the mod wheel and aftertouch. They don't actually show on the first page. This one you can alter your macros for it. Let me just bring up a pad sound. So you see macro 2 is assigned, and you see these little dials here. So macro 2 can be controlled as well. You can learn a MIDI CC and control it that way. If you don't know quite what these macros are doing, if you just go to the mod matrix, which we'll cover in more detail in a moment, you can see that we've got delay and reverb, the sort of wet dry signal mapped to macro 2. So if you ever get lost, just go to the mod matrix, it tells you what's going on. On the front page we also can control the low pass, high pass filters. And this here says whether it's controlling layer A or B or both. We then also can control each of these knobs by a MIDI CC measure. Now MW is going to be my mod wheel. I can get it so it'll apply to only when I do aftertouch, which is when you press the key on the keyboard, when you think you've got to the bottom of the key, just push it a little bit further and it'll then trigger after touch. But please do check your manual first, because not every single MIDI controller allows after touch. So if your controller does, you can also use that. We can change the EQ. So at the moment it's on bright. Just turn the volume up a little bit, and then can make it dark. So we'll come to this later, but we could assign an LFO to this, so we can make it cycle between dark and bright all by itself, and we can do that by just literally clicking LFO 1 there, but we'll cover that later. We can then give it a bit of a vintage feel, so clean, and we can crush it. And again, you can assign that knob to any of these sources. We've got the delay and reverb as well, which you can add delay and wads of reverb if you so wish. So that's the front screen. So there's quite a lot you can actually do to shape your sound, because the one thing I haven't covered is your master volume sliders. So instead of using this one up here, if you want to sort of like take it down in volume, you can just move this and it'll just lower the whole thing in volume. So very straightforward and easy to navigate. We then come to the sort of, I think the main heart of this instrument, I think it'll be fair to say, is the sample and grain engine. And this looks very complicated when you first look at the page, but believe me, it is very easy to actually get your head round. Up here we've got whether I'll just disable layer B, so we just concentrate on layer, because the controls are actually the same on each one. So we've got a pad sound here, just turn the pad up, there we go. And you can have the grains engine work either polyphonically or in mono. So if it's in mono, the cursor position will sync across all the held notes, so no matter where we are, it will play the same grains on all notes. Now if you put it on poly, the cursor position applies independently to each note. So if I play that note, you can see it started from the beginning on the second note. And if I put a third note in, you'll start again from the beginning. And then we've got sample, which just plays it like a normal sample. Now the great thing with this is you can actually import your own samples to this, and all you need to do is literally take your sample and drag it into the sort of like window here, and it will map it for you. I'll show you that in a minute. It'll be an interesting thing to do. We then have the ability to change the volume, the attack and release for it, the position of where the grains start. So this grain will start there, start here, start at the beginning. We then have a motion which it changes the speed of the sample playback from frozen where it is to literally 1000% according to the manual. So if we turn the motion to, let's make it 0. See, it's not moving from the beginning, but if I turn the motion all the way up, it should move from the beginning to the end. There you go. I'll turn it back down a bit. You also see that it's bouncing backwards and forwards. That's because we were on loop and we're on bounce. So if it's on bounce, when it hits the end of the loop period, it will bounce back to the beginning. And you can have it as one shot by just turning the loop off. you also can change the start and end points of these loops. So I can actually just drag and hold in. So if I want to loop it just that, let's go from the beginning, then we don't have to play the whole sample. So if I just want to do that bit here, we get this. See how it just bouncing in between it? It's not using the rest of that sample. Whereas if I move that all the way down here, it will play all the sample before it gets to the end, and then it'll bounce between the two. You can then detune your sample as well by semitones or the full percentages here. So there's an awful lot you can actually do with just some basic controls to shape the sound. We then can change the density of the grains, so you can change the size of the grains. And you can change the fade in and fade out for the grains as well. We also have this jitter thing. Jitter thing? That's a strange way of putting that. A jitter control, which controls the relative depth of your subcontrols, which are these. So if you see these lines, these are sort of like map exactly how it goes. So you got your jitter, which goes into the randomize your grain positions, which then goes into pan mode. Just move that around a bit. And then you can also randomize the density and randomize the grain size and randomize the volume of each grain. So there's an awful lot going on here, and I do recommend you go into the manual and have a look at that, because it gives you a bit more detail of what these controls actually do. And each one, where there's a little dot, it means you can use a modulation source to change this. So I could modulate the LFO1 to change the size or the density. Now, what I said earlier is about the two controls coming on here. You see macro 1, and next to it, all of a sudden when we go to sample grain, we have the mod wheel and the aftertouch. So we can adjust how much the performance control here, this is this bit here, it's the performance control, is affected by aftertouch or the mod wheel. So there's a little bit more to play with. And then you can also change your bend range of your pitch bend. So how far does this go? Yeah, it can go 12 semitones up, 12 semitones down. So it's a full octave spread on your pitch bend. Let's go back to 2. There we go. So, like I say, the grain sample engine is so much, there's so much you can do in it. Let's have a look at let's have a look at importing our own sample and see what we can do. So I'm just going to drag a sample from my hard drive onto the interface, and all I'm going to do is just literally drag it into that window there, let go, and we're in. And it's a drum loop. That's because I've got a load of reverb on, so I've turned the reverb down and the delay down. But now if I put the let's put it in mono mode. Let's put it on. There we go. So you can mess around with your own loop quite a lot, really, to get something that's different and go from what was a rock type loop, and you can use that into sort of like more ambient. So let's just thought I'd quickly show you what we can actually do there. So let's just stick a different patch in so we can carry on with looking at the interface. So then we can go into a mod matrix here. So at this moment in time, we've got the FX as the source, and the destination is going to be the mod wheel is going to actually adjust the effects. So if we see the mod wheel moving there, and at the same time we can see the dial on here moving. Turn that down. Let's just try a different sound just to demonstrate this. I'll go into a piano pad and go back to mod matrix. So if I turn the effects on and say I want it to go to mod wheel and we want to up it a bit, let's go for maximum. Can have it bipolar, this goes either way as well. So if I've got the effects all the way up there and I open my mod wheel, it goes the other way. Now if I also put delay in, I want delay on the mod wheel as well, and we'll turn that right up so we get a full effect. So the mod, it's very sort of easy to understand how this is going to work, because if I wanted to, I could say I'll put the filter on an LFO1 and I will, so this is this is LFO1 here, and I can put that into sine mode and make the rate quite high, and then what I'll do is put the filter so it'll go from low pass to high pass. And now I can turn it, I can make it fast or I can make it slow. So you can basically just click on the, well, what you need to do is set your destination first. So LFO2 on EQ, and then I can change it to bipolar, or, you know, as in go negative or forward. So anti-clockwise or clockwise when you look at these little yellow things. So if you look at that EQ down there, as I move that, you see it goes from normal to dark now. So that's LFO2. We then, obviously, we've got your step sequencer bit here, which you can use as a modulation as well. So if I go to sequencer on the reverb, I can do some crazy things. So the reverb is that one there, so I'll turn that up. So I can make it jitter backwards and forwards now. So if you watch that little yellow now, it's on and off. So I can have it, every note will play a different part of the reverb, or we can have it on song position. So that's how the mod matrix works. Just reset the sound here back to the normal piano pad. And the last screen we have is the FX controls, which I'm not going to go through every single one because they will react like any normal EQ and compressor will do, except for, say, you've got different types of compressors to play with. You've got a tube, a glue, FET compressor, different types of saturation. You've got an amplifier, so you can model different amps as well. So that's off at the moment. If I turn it on, let's go for silver grate. So you can put different things on. And then we've got the modulation slots. We can put a vintage chorus. We've got all sorts of different things to explore here. You also got different types of delay. You've got tape delay. diffusion delay, and multitude of reverbs to choose from. So that's the graphic user interface. Well, a review wouldn't be complete with that little composition, would it? So to show how these sounds can be combined, I've put together a little sketch, and what you're about to hear are sounds from this library, apart from one, which we will come to a bit later. Let's listen to the composition. So a little sketch for you there, just to show what you can do with the sounds from this library, really. I will start at the very beginning. It's always a good place to start. We'll go with the instant atmosphere setters, the suspended guitars and Hydra, which sound like this. And Hydra by itself sounds like this. And when coupled together, they give a nice little atmosphere at the beginning of the track. And we'll go with the pads next, the rustling leaves, which I'll just mute these, make sure they don't fire across. Sound like this. So it's very subtle and very quiet. Now to fill the bottom end out, we use this patch Stratosphere, and it sounds like this. So very low and rumbling, and I really wanted something sort of like that's in between, real growly and not so growly. This is where this bad atmosphere comes in, and this goes like this with it. Sounds like somebody breathing, really. Now, on its own, it sounds a little bit odd, but when you couple it together, it really does fill out that sort of like sonic detail on the bottom end. So it gives a sort of like sleeping giant type effect. Now our leads came from a piano type, sort of like lead, sparsely keying, and another one called Deep Hush. Now I'll do Deep Hush first, because this is a sort of like a quieter, subtler lead that beds in with the track. And as for second bit, we'll let you listen to sparsely keying. And this is a lovely piano sound. And if I mix them together, we get this. And in the second half, we have these little plugs. Basically all I used was an arpeggiator plugin really, but the sounds are from this library, and it's just Cubase is stock Apache SX, that's all. I'll just turn that up a bit so you can hear it. But I didn't want it to be dominant, so that's why it's turned quite a bit down. I'll just mute that. That's a little special track which we'll come to in a minute. So it just sort of like keeps the interest going. Now this is the special track I was on about, and we said before in the little walkthrough that you can import your own samples, and as Terrastrate doesn't really have any, I wouldn't say, sort of like glitchy drum type loops in there, I thought it'd be good just to demonstrate what you can actually do. And all I did was import a drum loop that I have on my hard drive and give it a little bit of tweaking within the interface of Terrastrate. So I've added a LFO on the filter, LFO on the EQ, so it goes from dark to bright. We ramped up the delay a bit and add some reverb. And in the sample section, we just sorted the loop section out, so when it loops quite cleanly. And we messed around with the root just to give it a bit more glitchy effect. And we ended up with this. So no sort of two loops are exactly the same because of the sort of what I've done with the filter, the delay and the reverb. So it just goes to show how much mileage you can actually get out of this instrument just importing your own sounds. You can go crazy importing drum loops. It's really, really powerful for creating something quite unique. And when you couple them all together, we get this, as you heard before. So there we go, a little sketch just showing what you can do with this library, and then a little bit more. For their first outing in the Kontakt world, Audivor have created a wonderful instrument with a very engaging interface. They've done a sterling job in mixing different types of synthesis into an easy to navigate instrument. All the controls for this instrument are to hand, and in other words, you don't have to go on a menu diving mission just to shape your sound. the results of which provide instant results in shaping and designing that particular sound you're after. If you ever get lost, just hover your pointer even, over a control and info text at the bottom of the Kontakt interface will let you know what it should do. You also drag and drop in your own WAV files to this instrument, which provides for endless sound creation, allowing you to mix sounds from this library with those of your own. I have a feeling I'll be importing some field recordings to mix in with the existing sounds, especially with the granular engine. For $99 you are getting a lot of mileage with this instrument. So if you need some new fresh sounds in instruments that you're just really asking to be tweaked, then you really need to add Terrastrate to your shopping list. In the meantime, if you want to keep up to date with the latest releases in the audio world, then smash that subscribe button, and I'll see you in the next video.